Haitian-Canadian boxer Adonis Stevenson is in critical condition after getting knocked out in a match in Quebec last night. 41-year-old Stevenson is said to be in intensive care in a Montreal hospital. The former light heavyweight world champion lost his title last night to Ukrainian fighter Oleksandr Gvozdyk. Boxers risk serious injury when they step into the ring. Unfortunately, it happened last night during a fight in Quebec City. Adonis Stevenson of Montreal is in critical condition after losing a world championship bout. With more, Sofia Jurkovic joins us here on set. This is a serious situation. Help us to understand what's going on, Sophia.
Yeah, absolutely. We do have footage of when he was knocked out by his opponent, who is Oleksandr Gvozdyk of the Ukraine, 31 years old. And Adonis Stevenson, 41 years old, has been a professional or boxing professionally since 29 years of age. Now, this particular moment, this knockout that we are talking about, happened in the 11th round of this fight. You're going to see Stevenson here in the gold. And it was stopped at approximately 2:49 of the 11th round. You'll see they're both tired. And then you'll see Stevenson in the corner get hit a couple of times, where ultimately the referee comes in, stops the fight, and it is called a knockout. The next bit of footage is a little bit difficult to see because you'll see him trying to get up on his own 2 feet and then stumbling, not able to do so. Eventually he does get up on his own 2 feet, but he is stretchered off and taken to hospital. This fight taking place in Quebec City. Now, you'll see him in the stretcher. He's sitting up. But since this footage and since he's been taken to hospital, Yvon Michel, the promoter for this fight, put out on Twitter that he is in critical condition in the intensive care unit at the hospital that he was brought to. His family is with him. He said in the tweet that they are asking for privacy, so that's all we know, but obviously not encouraging and not good to hear that he is in intensive care and in critical condition.
Yeah, a long career. The hits add up, no question, depending on exactly what happened there. And of course, denying one's state is one of the symptoms of a head injury. You want to keep going, especially someone who's as competitive as a boxer.
Yes, and we have seen in boxing and in skiing that sometimes there's a fall and a hit to the head, and then in the immediate moments after that, someone seems okay, but it's afterwards that there is in fact damage. So the good news is that he's being watched in hospital, but we don't know an update on the condition other than it is critical. Watch
that very closely. Thanks, Sophia.
You're welcome.
My next guest knows all about the physical and mental toll that boxing can take on a fighter. Mitch Chuvalo, the son of Canadian boxing icon George Chuvalo. Chuvalo took part in nearly 100 professional fights against such legendary foes as George Foreman, Joe Frazier, and of course Muhammad Ali, who commented that he saw Chuvalo take more hits than any man he had seen in the ring. Mitch Chuvalo joins us now. Thank you so much for coming in to see us early on a weekend to talk about this issue, Mitch.
You're welcome, Jeff.
You've seen a bit of the fight. What were your thoughts?
I only saw the tail end of the fight. I got a Facebook feed before I went to bed last night, and I had a fitful sleep when I saw what had transpired. I knew that the young man was obviously in a little bit of trouble. I think the referee stepped in and stopped the fight at the right time, but I haven't seen the whole fight, so I can't speak to the amount of damage he took up to that point. But it was there was obviously something wrong with him cognitively at the end, and I think the referee did the right thing in stepping in.
As we're learning more about head hits, concussions, traumatic brain injury, whatever the sport, there seems to be mounting evidence that they add up over time.
Right.
You get hit in football practice, you get hit during the season. Same thing with a boxing career. A 41-year-old boxer at that level of performance would have been hit a lot on the head prior to this.
I don't know how many fights Adonis Stevenson has had professionally, but certainly over a long career. Not only fighting, but all that sparring and training beforehand, that adds up too. And that's one thing that doesn't get monitored a lot, your sparring and training. I've seen some, being around boxing my whole life, seeing wars in the gym that rival anything you actually see on fight nights. So that's not monitored, and I think that it's time that needs to be monitored, actually.
You understand maybe better than anyone the toll that boxing can take on a human being. Can you talk a bit about what you witnessed with your father over the course of his lifetime?
Well, my father's a bit of an anomaly in that his capacity to absorb punishment is, legendary. It's beyond the pale. My dad prepared himself. He was in great condition for his almost 100 fights. He did things that were way ahead of his time in terms of strengthening the structures of his neck and the shoulder girdle to take punishment. His inherent inherently strong bone structure helped him a lot, but it did add up. He has dementia now. He's got frontal lobe damage to the front right part of his brain. And if you watch his actual fights, John, his technique, he'd hold his hands up, he would take blows over in that area. And every time I see Muhammad Ali throwing a fantastic jab at my dad and hitting him in this part of the brain, although it didn't look like it hurt him at the time, those kinds of blows have added up over a career. It's you know, cognitive death by 1,000 cuts.
We've seen the debate play out in hockey, in football. It's almost as if the debate is the horse has left the barn in boxing, because the intent of that sport is to effectively knock out, damage the brain of the opponent.
Yeah, damage the brain, separate them from consciousness. The knockout is the killer shot in boxing. And even light blows over a long career can add up. Not only, my father was never diagnosed with having a concussion. That's amazing. If you look at the fighter who received the most medical attention, the best medical attention over his life, Muhammad Ali always had Ferdy Pacheco in his corner. Still yet, he had brain damage. So I don't think that it's constitutive of the sport to hurt somebody, to damage their brain. And I don't know, I have a love-hate relationship with boxing. I think it's a great platform for human drama and courage and willpower, but it does have damaging effects long term. And this is going to open up a discussion, and I think that discussion needs to happen again.
As Adonis Stevenson fights for his life in hospital, where do you think that discussion is going to go, and what might it mean for the future of boxing?
Well, boxing is the sport of the underclass. Recent immigrants, people trying to climb the socioeconomic ladder, have historically turned to boxing as a vehicle. I don't think we can outlaw boxing. I think it might make us feel good as a sporting nation to do that, but when we do that, boxing is going to go underground. I think it has to be better monitored. I don't know how that's going to happen. That discussion needs to start. And we need to be very careful about having that cost-benefit analysis always up front. I look at my father's career, and I asked him a few days ago, and he was very lucid. Dad, would you fight? You know he had brain damage? He goes, yes, I do. I said, would you do it all over again? He said, absolutely. I look at that and I go, well, I don't know. That's part of who my father is. Interestingly, my son, his grandson, someone said to him, aren't you proud of your grandfather's career? And he goes, no, I hate boxing. Hate boxing? Why do you hate boxing? He said, because it stole my grandfather from me.
Wow. Okay, Mitch. Give our best to your father.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for coming in. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
It's an important issue. Mitch Chuvalo, the son of Canadian boxing great George Chuvalo.